Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay, let's do it. Bill Martinez Live. A program about current events, our culture, our values, our politics, and our future. And now, Bill Martinez.
We better stop. Hey, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going. We better stop. Hey,
well, hello, America. Top of the hour time. It's Bill Martinez coming at you live. For more information on the show, BillMartinezLive.com. That's where you want to go. In just a bit, we're going to be talking with Dinesh D'Souza. We haven't talked to him since he was in a confinement center in San Diego, California. As you may recall, the New York Times bestselling author, hit documentary filmmaker, and outspoken pundit got himself in a little bit of trouble. He found himself hauled into federal court on charges of campaign finance violations, and he paid his price. He accepted responsibility. As you'll recall, yesterday we spoke with Jeff Kemp about accepting responsibility. He did so right away, as a matter of fact. He went to the investigators and the FBI, said, look, hey, I did this. I'm guilty, thinking, hey, look, you're going to do the honorable thing. But he didn't quite realize just how diabolical the situation was. Scott, as you can imagine, I mean, here you are, you're caught in this kind of precarious spot, and you admit your wrongdoing, and you're thinking that the judge is going to have some sort of, understanding, compassion. And meanwhile, you look at it historically, very rarely did somebody go to jail. And especially for the kind of money we're talking about. We didn't talk about that he was a political bundler or that he had done something fraudulent, or that, it was rather underhanded. He just didn't realize. And I could understand how he could probably think, okay, well, hey, this could kind of work. It's not that big a deal. But then found out on the other side of it that it was a campaign violation. He had broken the law. And so then it was a matter of, what kind of sentence was going to be imposed on him. And historically, his attorney said, well, it's rare. These are the kind of things, but you did break the law and you're going to pay a price here. But it was clear that the Justice Department had targeted him because he had, through his movies and through his punditry, had attacked the Obama administration. And, this case continues. And, of course, we're going to talk a little bit more about it with him directly, and he'll tell his own story on how I think when you look at the facts and you understand what's going on, you say, wow, he's really targeted. New York Times bestselling author, hit documentary filmmaker, outspoken pundit is with us. Last time we talked to him, he was in a detention center in San Diego, California. Dinesh, welcome back. Good to have you with us, and I'm glad that you are free.
Hey, thank you so much, and always a pleasure to be on the show.
Well, Dinesh, let me ask you up front, how's your daughter doing?
She's doing great. She's in college and having a great time. She was in London in the fall, and she's now back in America and expanding her mind. And happy to say she's also, maturing politically.
Yeah, I bet. Well, everybody got thrown in the deep end of the pool here really quick. And of course, you've been there. I mean, you'd been a pundit. You'd been an outspoken critic of this administration. And, boy, when they got the opportunity to come down on you, it looks like you were clearly targeted.
Well, I think the normal treatment for someone who exceeds the campaign finance laws, particularly when there's no corruption involved. Mm-hmm. I mean, I gave the money to help a college friend who was running for the U.S. Senate. And normally that goes to the SEC, the Election Commission. They impose a fine and maybe some community service. It's a civil, not a criminal matter. So I think what happened here is that the government decided that I was to be made an example of, and they put the full force of the U.S. government. I'm an immigrant bill to the United States, and for me to go into a courtroom and hear the United States of America versus Dinesh D'Souza, that's enough to send a chill down your spine.
Well, and especially somebody as an immigrant who loves this country. You've picked no bones about it, and suddenly you find yourself in the crosshairs and the full weight and force of the government on top of you like this. And we're talking $20,000 here, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, we're not talking bazillions of dollars from somebody who wasn't, known as a political bundler. And, Dinesh, we had a conversation with Jeff Kemp, former quarterback in the NFL. And we were talking yesterday because he does Facing the Blitz, which is off his book. We talked about responsibility, about owning it right away, sooner. The sooner you own it, the better off you are. And you did that. You said, look, hey, I'm guilty. I messed up. And, and you threw yourself in a sense, on the mercy of the court, and the federal government was just in a feeding frenzy for you at that point.
Well, it was a little precarious for me because I was at the mercy of a Clinton appointee judge and a very aggressive prosecutorial unit that was willing to distort the case files, manipulate evidence, all kinds of shady business to try to get me thrown into the slammer. Now, the good thing about it is that having spent 8 months overnight in a confinement center, I actually got the experience of getting to know, I would say, a rather incredible group of hoodlums. I mean, drug smugglers, armed robbers, people who had served time for murder. Unbelievable. And it's widened my way of thinking about the world. I just saw a side of America that I'd never seen before. And so my new book, which is called Stealing America, sort of sums up the experience I've been through and how it is, in some senses, enlarged my way of thinking. Also given me some new insights into criminality in the Democratic Party, the way that people like Hillary, Harry Reid, all these characters, I mean, they never end up in a confinement center. And part of the reason for that is that they have a lot of power over the Justice Department, which decides who goes to a confinement center.
Exactly. Well, Dinesh, as I was reading your book and, of course, hearing your story and knew about what was happening before, I couldn't help but think of, one of the sons of Jacob, Joseph, who was thrown into jail and incarcerated. And, of course, for those of us that know the Old Testament story, his echo to his brothers that, what others meant for bad, God turned to good. And I believe we're starting to see the good that God is helping you realize in the expression of your book, Stealing America. Dinesh D'Souza is with us. We've got more from Dinesh on the other side of the break. Stay with us, America. It's just about 14 minutes after the top of the hour. This is Bill Martinez. We're live. Our conversation with the #1 New York Times bestselling author, hit documentary filmmaker, outspoken pundit Dinesh D'Souza continues. We're talking about his latest book, Stealing America, What My Experience with Criminal Gangs Taught Me About Obama, Hillary, and the Democratic Party. That subheadline, Dinesh, is very powerful, and I know there's probably some Democrats that are cringing at that statement, but you're calling it for what it is, because when you were in this detention camp there in San Diego, California, getting up close and personal with people that you wouldn't necessarily be taking out to lunch or dinner, it opened your eyes quite a bit, didn't it?
Yeah, I did. The criminal underclass has a very interesting perspective on America. Initially, having seen the Shawshank Redemption, I thought that those guys would take the view, we're all innocent. But no, their view is, in a sense, we're guilty, we did it, but we are the small fry. We're the stupid criminals who got caught. The big criminals, the big fry, if you will, don't get caught. And one reason the system doesn't go after them is because they are the system. So this got me to think a little bit more about, I would say about the new Democratic Party, because the Democratic Party of Truman and Jimmy Carter was not a party that I would describe in any way as not only, those guys didn't come to politics in order to play the system or to make money. But the remarkable thing about the new Democratic Party, the party of Obama and of Hillary, is these are people who are willing to bend the law. They are willing. They use politics to enrich themselves immensely, and they're willing to deploy the organs of the state, like the justice system, against the political enemies who whistle on them.
Exactly. Well, Peter Schweitzer has exposed them on a couple of occasions, and of course his recent book on the Clinton Foundation, which, surprises me, Dinesh. I know she's getting a lot of cover on this stuff, but I think it's all bubbling and coming to the top in light of all these other, trust-offending instances that are on her plate right now and are exposing her greatly.
Yeah, Hillary got scorned by some people when she said we were dead broke. But in reality, it is true that the Clintons came to politics with nothing. And now they have enormously enriched themselves. There are hundreds of millions of dollars and billions of dollars in the Clinton Foundation. So how do you do that in America? Now, one way you do that is you invent the iPhone, or you start Federal Express, or you discover roll-on luggage. But they didn't do any of that. They used politics in order to cash in big time. And they were in powerful positions. Hillary was Secretary of State dealing with foreign governments, and that involves things like mineral rights, uranium rights, even intercepting money that was designed to go to famine aid in Haiti. And that's why the Haitians are out of the Clinton Foundation protesting and saying, where are the billions of dollars that were supposed to go to us but seem to have gone to you? Exactly. And so I think it's quite remarkable that this isn't just about having, oops, I used to keep a private email, or oops, I didn't get the phone call in Benghazi. I think there's a much bigger story here that will help to answer the question of why a competent person like Hillary insisted upon having a private email. Obviously, there was information she didn't want to be on the public transom. Mm-hmm.
Dinesh, on the grander scale, is this, we talked about this earlier, not with you, but before you came on, about the breakdown and darkness or lack of moral clarity within our society, that it is so pervasive that it surprises me that even with these, these findings about Hillary and Nancy Pelosi and other Democrats, they live another day. Whereas you, for $20,000, you're in a detention center. The things the government has done, how they've been malfeasant with our funds, and probably Bernie Madoff is sitting in jail. And even though we're talking billions of dollars with him, he's probably thinking, what kind of small fry am I,
Yeah, no, I think that's, justice is not just a matter of did you break the law, but it's also a matter of proportioning a penalty to an offense. It's making sure that other guys who did the same thing get the same penalty. The Democratic Party, by the way, always appeals to justice, right? Their favorite phrase is social justice. Obama can't stop talking about people's fair share. So they always appeal to fairness. They appeal to justice, but they never seem to deliver justice. Right about the time my case was going through the courts, another guy, and happens to be an Asian Indian guy named Chakwal, he gave $180,000 in straw donations to Hillary and a bunch of Democratic candidates. And he was also found guilty of witness tampering. Nevertheless, he goes before the court. The Justice Department decides to go easy on him. He gets no prison. He gets no confinement center. So there we go. We got two cases. This guy did something far worse than I did, and yet he gets a much lesser penalty. And that's progressive justice. It's a big scam.
I know. Well, Dinesh, the House has picked up your case, and they've brought it to light. What do you think is going to happen here?
Well, a Florida congressman named Ron DeSantis read about my case, and he was astounded to see that in the sentencing memorandum, what the government did is they took a whole bunch of cases in which people had gotten prison time for campaign finance laws, but in all those cases there was corruption. People were buying offices or conspiring. And so what the government did is they edited out all that information in order to fool the judge into thinking that it would be normal to send me to federal prison. And so when this congressman, who was a former prosecutor, saw this, he realized that something very fishy is going on here at the very high levels of government. So the Oversight Committee of the U.S. Congress is now demanding that the Justice Department turn over my case file. The Justice Department, not surprisingly, is saying, no, we don't want to do that. And Congress, I think the next step is for them to issue a subpoena requiring the Justice Department to provide the file.
I know, it's amazing. I mean, it's like they wanted 3 weeks to turn over the information, and even then you knew things were going to be redacted to no end. So obviously it's the typical obfuscation on their part, and we've seen this play time and time again. Dinesh, in your experience while in confinement, as you say, in the subhead, you learned a lot from the criminal gangs there that you came in contact. What was the biggest eye-opener for you?
I think maybe the biggest thing I learned is that for 25 years I've looked at American politics as a kind of an intellectual debate between the Republicans and the Democrats, between the Party of Liberty and the Party of Equality. And what the criminal gangs taught me is that, look, American politics is also driven by very deep and base human motives. People are driven by lust and avarice and jealousy and rage and hatred. And if you ignore those powerful human emotions that are part of the motor of what drives us as human beings and in politics, then you're only going to see the surface of American politics. So in this book, Stealing America, I try to look under the surface.
Mm-hmm. And I've got to imagine for people who are at that level, and as you say, they got caught, but there's probably not a sense of any kind of, hey, let me learn from this. Let me come out better. It's, if anything, let me become a better criminal, because that's the system, and the system's fixed.
Yeah, the system is really not trying to fix these people. It basically is trying to, in some ways, the system itself is such a racket. It makes money off of these guys. And so in a way, the longer they stay in prison, the more the prison system gets paid. The prison system holds classes that nobody attends, and they build a taxpayer for it. So once the criminals begin to realize that even the prison system is a racket, naturally there's not very much of an example for them to turn their lives around.
Exactly. Why shouldn't they get theirs, right? I mean, for all that money that's out there?
They just feel like they just feel that their racket is too small, and that there are much bigger and better rackets to be part of, such as the racket known as American politics.
Well, once again, our American politics is incentivizing all the wrong things, and we wonder, America, why we are where we are and we have what we have. I got to tell you, this book is very disturbing as you read through it. I think I threw it across the living room a couple of times as I was reading it, Dinesh. It was just so frustrating. I could feel your pain, let me tell you. Dinesh D'Souza, #1 best-selling author. His book, Stealing America, will be linked on our website at BillMartinezLive.com. Dinesh, as always, good to have you on with us. It's 28 minutes after the top of the hour.